Welcome to Critter Crusades. It's a show about animals and ordinary people on extraordinary missions. Today I have with me Dr. Charlotte Laws. She's an animal activist, author whose work has been seen in many national papers, and I'll ask her a little bit more about herself right now. Hi Charlotte, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Tell me a little bit more about yourself and how you became an animal activist and who you are.
Well, I grew up in Atlanta, and at the time there was quite a bit of racism, and the blacks were not allowed in my school or in my parents' country club, and so the prejudice issue was a huge issue for me. And as I got older, I realized that the prejudice against animals is just as severe, and so I converted to the animal causes and became an animal rights person, I'd say in my early 20s, and have kind of worked for the cause as much as I could throughout all those years, educating myself and doing whatever I could to help.
So you have a different degree, it's more in a philosophical arena. Tell me about that.
Well, I have a PhD in social ethics, and so I've studied, and I actually did my dissertation on the animal rights movement and a philosopher, Baruch Spinoza, and so I have studied quite a bit in that area. I have a master's also in social ethics from USC, so I kind of felt like I needed to educate myself on those issues and really learn as much as I could about the animal movement and that kind of thing. So
that's an interesting perspective. Instead of somebody that's gone out and rescued a bunch of dogs off the street or whatever, you've come from the education area into this arena.
Exactly.
So you have a group that you have started. You're actually the president of Directors of Animal Welfare Programs. So tell me more about DAW as it's known.
Well, it started because I had written a no-kill proposal for the city of Los Angeles.
And let me stop here. A no-kill, what does that exactly mean?
It's for no-kill animal shelters in the city of Los Angeles. And I had put this together last year. And part of that proposal was the grassroots element was this Director of Animal Welfare Program, which essentially works through the neighborhood council system. And each council appoints somebody, votes and appoints someone to be the Director of Animal Welfare for that particular area, that community. So this person serves as the eyes and ears for the animal in the area, and they do outreach. They can use the council website, they can use the newsletter, they come to meetings and discuss things. The board, the council can pass various proposals. And then we have monthly meetings, so everyone can come together and discuss issues and work together, so all the councils can be brought together.
So let me back up for somebody that might not know about neighborhood councils. Those are actually established within the city of Los Angeles, and it's my understanding they're actually given a certain amount of money by the city of Los Angeles to do with it as it wants within a certain community. Let's say Encino, for instance, may have its own neighborhood council. So a DAW could actually have a representative in Encino that could do different activities in the area of Encino. Is that how it works?
Right. In fact, Encino has a DAW that they recently appointed, and each council gets $50,000 that they can use any way that they want. They get additional money as per Mayor Hahn's recommendation right before he left, that they would get money for street repairs and additional money that they could designate for street repairs and that kind of thing. So yeah, the councils can vote and spend the money as they wish, which some of that money could go to animals or go to events or adoptions or spay neuter or whatever it may be, and ways to reach out to the community. Part of the reason for doing this also, breaking it down by neighborhood, is because every area has different needs. And some areas have dog fighting, and other areas have horses, and some areas have coyote problems, or whatever it may be. So it's kind of a way to educate on a local level and reach out to the stakeholders and get everyone involved with the problems of that particular community and helping animals in that particular area.
So I see that person that's a DAW or a director in that area, they could be basically an animal ambassador in that area. So let's say you have a problem with feral cats. That person could be the point person in that community to say, call this person. If you've got this issue, they'll be able to connect you with all the correct groups, if it's animal rescue groups or whatever, because there's a lot of average people that don't know anything about the, quote, animal movement, about animal rescue or whatever. So they're really going out there and educating people about that. So you mentioned some of the events or different things they do. I understand there's a group even that has taken money and they want to, let's say, give it to police dogs that are helping patrol their area. I know that they didn't have the bulletproof Prevest needs, so they're having other needs. So those are important things that a group can work. A neighborhood council will take an issue such as animals and make it as important as crime, as important as potholes, as important as the other things. So what has your reception been with the neighborhood councils about how many are involved and what are they looking at?
It's been very positive. We have about 24 DAWs right now. They're currently, I think there are 86 neighborhood councils, but some areas are still being certified, so eventually there may be, 95 or something like that. And basically we're going out and trying to get everyone on board. I mean, it just takes a little time. We've only been in existence for maybe 6 months or so. So we have to oftentimes make a presentation at the meeting. They have to put on the agenda. We have to obviously have someone, or they have to have someone who wants to be the DAW, and then they have to vote and approve this person, and then they can start working in that area and working with their council.
So this is a way that somebody that doesn't necessarily belong to an animal rescue group can say, I want to get involved in the community. So it takes average people, and I guess that would also spread the information to the average person that there may be no one in that community or on that board, that neighborhood council board, that knows as much about animals. They might have a couple of dogs or cats or whatever, but they don't really see the issues that are going on. And this goes back to our topic about the LA animal system. It's it's funded by the taxpayers. Taxpayers want to know what's going on with that.
Right.
And I would see that they would be able to go out and talk to the people about where their monies are actually going to, how well or not so well that their money is being spent. So that goes to the LA animal system, and I know that you've been involved in Oakland as well. What has your involvement been, and what do you see as far as the issues with the LA animal system? I won't say it's negative yet, but I'm just going to say, you tell me what you observe and where.
Well, my experience has been that there is a lot of incompetence that's been going on. There is a lot of secrecy as far as getting information like statistics and that kind of thing. The department has not been very good with getting that information out. And there's a lot of fear. Rescuers get very afraid to come forward and voice their complaints because they're afraid they're not going to be allowed to go back in the shelter and rescue animals. And so there's been like a lot of, and also fear of offending the mayor or offending the city council. In the last 3 or 4 weeks, I would say it's changed quite a bit in the animal community. And people have been, a large number of people have been willing to come forward and say that they're fed up, and to say that Mr. Stuckey is not the best general manager and that perhaps he should be replaced, and that kind of thing. And so I have seen quite a few changes in the last 3 to 4 weeks. And we're hoping that the mayor is going to do something and is going to replace Mr. Stuckey. I mean, even I was not willing to make that statement previously because I really felt that to give this man a chance. I mean, he came here all the way from Maryland, and I didn't have a lot of direct experience with him since I'm not a rescuer and since I don't work at the shelter. So I was always trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. But I guess kind of the final straw for me is first he wrote a no-kill business plan, which was really, I don't know, I wasn't that impressed with it. And a week later, and I wrote up a response to that, but a week later he went to the press and said he didn't believe in no-kill. And here he had just presented a no-kill plan. And the stated goal of Los Angeles, as per Mayor Hahn and Mayor Villaraigosa, is that it's no kill, that we want to be no kill, and that is our goal. So I thought, how is he going to embrace this? How is he going to move the city towards no kill if he doesn't believe in no kill? And then the van, scandal or whatever that is came out with the potential loss to taxpayers of a $1.1 million because of a spay-neuter van, which impacted not only the taxpayers but the poor people of our city and the animals of our city with reduced number of spay-neuters. So I was not too impressed with the contract that he ended up with on that, and I thought that is his job.
Well, I know you've been talking about it in your article, Mayor Villaraigosa and the Truth About Cats and Dogs, and I know the mayor himself has been having a few problems. Let's see, front page, I think that's pretty much the boldest type on that page. It's Mayor's Animal Problem, and I think it's hitting the mainstream. It's not just the articles. And I know that there's a lot of fiscal issues. I know there's an issue of rendering. It's a very big, huge business. I was speaking with someone that's running for a political position. He said they even have their own trade magazines and associations for the rendering issues, and dogs and cats comprise a huge amount of product that is rendered, meaning ground down with other animals and put into meal for even feeding chickens, feeding cows, everything, and they're wondering about the mad cow issue. And then also that goes to what you were discussing, which is the no-kill system. It's everybody's coming out with different ideas. I know there was a gentleman, Nathan Winograd, that was here, who has actually been active in actually turning San Francisco and Tompkins County in New York to no-kill successfully, and it was fiscally responsible. It was causing a change for the taxpayers. And if people aren't even involved as an animal activist, that's something they can look at. Where are my tax dollars going? What can benefit? And this is a big issue. So in your plan, I know that you've got a plan that you've come up with. Other people have been writing plans and been putting that out across the internet and in papers. There's also an issue of protesting. How effective, or I know, I covered a protest the other day. There's groups that are very radical. There's groups that are not as radical. What is your viewpoint on the efforts of protesters and how that can make a difference?
Well, I actually believe that the group ADLLA is really one of the main reasons that Mayor Hahn is no longer the mayor. I think they made a huge impact on that whole election.
And what does that stand for, ADL?
Animal Defense League Los Angeles, and that's a protest organization. And they have recently started protesting Mayor Villaraigosa. I mean, the animal community gave the mayor quite a bit of time to do something, and when we felt that he hadn't done anything is when the protests began.
And doing something meaning?
Meaning replacing Mr. Stuckey.
And was that a campaign promise?
It was a campaign promise. And he also had removed Erica Brunson from the Animal Commission. And
this Animal Commission does what? What is the purpose of it?
Basically, it's supposed to have control over the general manager. So it is supposed to be advising Mr. Stuckey what to do. And they are, really embraced by the animal community. We feel that they care. We feel they do a good job. And
how much power do they have, though?
Well, that's questionable. They are supposed to. The original idea of Mayor Villaraigosa's administration was that the Animal Commission was going to have power over Mr. Stuckey. Now, you would have to ask him if that's still his stance. I'm not quite certain about that, but they're supposed to advise the department on the direction to go and what to do, and they have meetings every couple of weeks, and the public can come and voice concerns and discuss issues and that kind of thing. And I have attended some of the meetings, and I do find that Mr. Stuckey doesn't seem to respect these individuals. He doesn't seem to pay attention. He doesn't seem to listen to what they have to say. And so that, I think, is a problem. I don't see him working with them. And I do feel that they really care. I think there's a good commission in place. And when the mayor removed Erica Brunson, who was a caring individual, and replaced her with a surveillance expert, because the mayor has, well, we don't know the reason that he specifically put this person in place, but he has voiced his concerns about the security of employees because of Animal Liberation Front activities and that kind of the protests and that kind of thing. That could be surmised that could have been one reason why he was put in that position.
Well, I mean, it doesn't make sense to take somebody that's effective off of a commission unless it's something political. I know there's an issue related somewhere to unions, and unions that evidently unions are workers within.
There are unions in the shelter, in the animal shelter system.
So he must have a pressure from unions somewhere to keep everything status quo.
I think it's possible that unions have something to do with this. I think that the mayor probably is a little nervous about how it looks with regards to unions, and he wants to be very careful. I know if he does remove Mr. Stuckey, according to the city charter, he can appeal to the city council. So I think the mayor would want to be sure that the city council was going to uphold his decision rather than overturning his decision. So, and unions could come into play because, I understand that Stuckey has a nice relationship with the union in the shelters, is what I understand.
So the other thing is that the situation in the shelters is there are way too many animals coming in. Spaying and neutering is just not happening enough across the city. Education needs to go on. And as well, it is, which has been seen on tape, undercover, and been given out to different groups through people that work in the shelters. The situation is horrific for many of the animals. They are not put down properly, they suffer. And
their paper products being stored in the cages. If you look at the undercover videos, you're like, you go to the shelter to adopt Dixie cups and rolls of toilet paper, because that's what you see in the cages. You see empty cages.
And they say there's too many animals, there's not enough cages, and there's something funny and something's amiss. And I think that is where the DAW program is good, in that going out to the average community member saying, you know, here's some information, here's some facts, why don't you look into it?
Right.
Because you can look at this yourself and say, does this fit what you're thinking is going on to the puppies and kittens that are taken in? You think, oh, I'll take it to the animal shelter. And they don't know why there's so many rescue groups out in the world. I mean, there's so many rescue groups for every different breed. There's rescue groups for every different age. There's rescue groups for rescue groups. I mean, there's so much out there. Now, in this no-kill possibility, I know Nathan Winograd said that, you know, people have to stop with that, you know, too many animals, not enough homes mentality.
Right.
There really has to be a change in that. And you are mentioning also, you've said that political movement needs to occur. Tell me more about what your ideas are and where you're going with the idea of
well, I
political
think that
involvement.
I think animal people need to get into politics, and we need to stop, you know, running around being seen as these crazy people outside in jeans, you know, screaming like hippies or something, and actually be in our business suits and be inside the room talking about issues. And I think we need to be talking about a lot of issues because we all care about many, many issues, not just animals. But if we are in the room discussing those issues, then we have a place at the table, and then when an animal issue comes up, we're already there and we're already at the table and we're already respected, and then we can discuss that and take it forward. So I think that animal people need to be on commissions. They need to be on neighborhood councils. They need to run for assembly or run for Congress or whatever it may be. And rather than, you know, after the fact running up to politicians and saying, oh, please take our issue, please support us. Well, obviously, you know, that's probably not where their heart truly is, because we wouldn't be running up to them if it were. So we need to be doing it ourselves, and I think that's really important. And the neighborhood council system is a great way to start. Because, you know, you run for election. I just got reelected, and it's just like a regular campaign, and you're out trying to get votes, and, you know, people come in and vote for you or don't vote for you, and it's, you know, it's a good first step as far as getting into the political system. And you have your meetings, and you have to negotiate with your full council as far as various issues, and you know, it's a really good you know, education into the political system. And I'd love to see various animal people getting in that way.
I know you talked about to me before about a actual commission for the state of California. You've been sending something to our governor. Tell me more about that.
I had a meeting actually probably about 6 months ago with Terry Tamminen, who's his cabinet secretary. So I flew up to Sacramento for that. And my idea is to start a commission for the state of California, which would be advisory, which would be appointed by the governor. And the commission would simply be to help cities and counties achieve the no-kill goal. So they would just be offering advice as per whatever, you know, it could be Nathan Winograd's ideas, or, you know, it could be with Maddie's Fund, which I don't know if you know much about that, but it's an organization that gives money to help cities and counties become no-kill. That's all they give their money to, and they have almost $300 million that they use for that purpose.
Named after this gentleman's
a little dog named Maddie.
Right, right.
So it's a wonderful organization, and New York City is going through it right now. The state of Utah has been going through the no-kill plan with Maddie's Fund. And so that's the idea, is that there would be a commission for the state of California. And the governor's office seemed very excited initially, but I have not heard anything. So now I took it to my council, and we passed a proposal, and we sent it out to the mayor, we sent it out to the LA City Council. We want to get them on board, and we want to get as much support as possible to push the governor to put this in place.
Well, I know that the governor was sort of pressed by his daughter or something when they were talking about changing the system from the amount of days that an animal could have to sit in the cell before it would be euthanized. Right. So maybe she could be a commission member herself when she gets a little older in that political stream. And what is your passion? What drives you to do this? I mean, you are obviously a working woman, a mother. Tell me a little bit more about yourself and what drives you.
Well, I think I really care about those who are oppressed. I mean, I think, as I said, that's kind of how it all started, is the voiceless, the oppressed, you know, and that's how it all started with me. So I really feel, you know, what goes on. I mean, to me, it's just horrible. And this, you know, the shelter issue is such a mainstream issue. I mean, there's so many other issues that, you know, for animals, and torture and all the things that they face every single day. But this is so mainstream. So it's something that everybody can, you know, as a first step, that everybody can just, you know, hold on to. But I just want to make a difference. I mean, I know it sounds really cliche, but
no, it doesn't.
And I really want to do what I can to help. And I really feel that in the animal community, we all have our own roles. You know, some of us are protesters, and some of us are writers, and some of us are in the academic world, and some of us are in politics, or whatever it may be. And I think that that's what's really important, is that we have our own roles and we all work together towards the same goal. And I see that happening much more now in the animal community than in the past. There was a lot of infighting in the past, but now we're really coming together. Just in the last 3 or 4 weeks, I see a huge difference. And that's what is putting the pressure on the mayor's office and on Animal Services Department, is this pressure from the fact that we're unified.
I think that is one of the main points that Nathan Winograd had said. It's that this movement is unified. He said it's not if LA Animal Services will become no-kill, it's when.
Yeah.
And that movement really is going forward now. And it really is about the fiscal responsibility that goes along with the caring and compassionate component of that as well, because the two have to come together. It is a government agency, the city agency. It's something that we have to look at as taxpayers. It's ineffective. It's broken. It doesn't work. And there's death involved.
Right.
If people could see undercover videos, I know we've both seen them, of the mass amounts of deaths and just the way the handling of the animals. People used to think, oh, well, I have to put little Muffy down and take it to the pound to be put down. They didn't even know what would occur.
Yeah.
They wouldn't know that it would go and be not even put down properly, thrown into food for other animals. And I know other people are really starting to listen. Again, like articles in the paper, articles that they're reading. The internet has been so effective, and I know you have a website now, and then everybody uses their method the best way. And I think what you're doing, going out into the community, everybody has a stepping stone to go out there. Now, what would be your position, or where do you want to see yourself 10 years from now with this? Hopefully that no-kill has happened already, but what would you like to be doing more for the animals?
Yeah, hopefully no-kill will have happened, but I would like to move on to other issues and try to make an impact on other animal issues as time goes by. I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, I might want to run for political office for assembly or something eventually. I don't know. I mean, I'd like to continue to do the writing and get a couple of my books on the market and that kind of thing. So it's really, I'm really kind of letting the universe guide me at this point as far as where I'm needed. That is kind of my philosophy, is to just try to be guided by the universe as far as where I can help the most.
So have you seen any progress in the systems? As far as I know, you're working in the Oakland system. Are they ahead of us? Are they behind us? Or
well, they've had a lot of problems. I wrote a proposal for the city of Oakland, and much of it's based on Nathan Winograd's ideas, because I had gone through his weekend seminar and had all of his materials and really felt I learned quite a bit from that. And I also suggested a DAW program for their area too. But they had had some major problems, and people had come forward from the shelters saying there were abuses and all sorts of issues. And so they ended up basically putting the director on leave of absence, and they kind of had to revamp the whole thing, and they're still going through that right now. So this was very recent when I presented this proposal to the city. It was only a couple months ago, and they still haven't put a director in place yet. So that's where that is. And I wouldn't say they're ahead of us. They only have one shelter, so they don't have as many animals to deal with. They have more pit bulls and dogs that are a little harder to get adopted. They probably have more dog fighting and those kinds of issues up there than we have in Los Angeles. So it's different, but there are a lot of similarities also.
But they're so close to San Francisco, which has converted to no-kill. It's interesting that just in one community over, they can have that difference.
Well, it's interesting. When San Francisco became no-kill, they had all the communities right around them were not real happy about this whole idea of no-kill, because it made them look bad. So they were trying to criticize San Francisco, as I understand it, and saying, well, you can't do it, or they were naysayers, as Nathan Winograd says, because they didn't want the spotlight on them, and all of a sudden they would have to start working really hard to not kill the animals, and you have fewer animals coming in. Over time, you're reducing money for taxpayers, and it's going to make it easier. But at the beginning, you really have to get everything in order. You have to know what you're doing. You have to have foster homes. You have to have rescue groups coming in. You have to have lots of community support. And a lot of people in animal services are in a mindset where they're they've been doing it one way for a long time, and they don't want to have to think outside of the box. They want to just stick with what they've always done.
So in a wrap up of everything, why do you think that people rescue? Why do you think because Critter Crusades is really about those types of people, and the people from all different areas, if it's people in the political realm, if it's the individuals that are doing it in an educational format. But why do you think people go out of their way to help animals to rescue?
I think that the rescue people are wonderful, and I think that a lot of it has to do with the problem just seeming so big that I feel like, you know, when someone can say, oh, I saved this dog's life, or I helped these 5 cats, you know, it's something that seems manageable, it's tangible. They can feel like they know that they did something to make things better, because otherwise it just is everywhere. It's so hard. The problem is so big. And that's one way to kind of feel that you're getting it under control, and you are making a difference. Even if you're saving one animal's life, that's still making a very big difference, and that's very important.
I've seen people that are not even animal people at all get involved, and they just say, you know, an animal's in the backyard of somebody else, they saw it dying or starving or whatever, and they got involved with the other neighbor and this neighbor, and before you know it, that person would end up having an animal of their own or whatever, and understanding why it took so many people to get involved just for one animal. And to me, it says something when you're talking about that compassion and that you know, unconditional love that an animal will give. I notice that animals that have been rescued, and I know it may sound a little crazy, but you notice they're so caring, they're so grateful for what's gone on. You can tell they're just like desperate to hug and love on you, sit in your lap or whatever, and it's that thing. They know there is a communication between the human and the non-human, and they are sentient beings, and we have to be considerate of that. This has been a wonderful time talking to you, and thank you so much for all the work that you do, and I know that we're going to be seeing a lot more of you everywhere, and I want to read more of your articles and have more people get involved with the dog group, so I think it's going to be very effective.
Well,
so thank you for coming, and thank you for joining us on Critter Crusades. It's going to be the show that keeps continuing to talk about extraordinary people. They are extraordinary, but they're just ordinary. Thank you for joining us.